Hey, welcome everyone to our workshop for this evening. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you can see that. Charlotte, can you just give me a little thumbs up? You can see presentation. Awesome, good. We're ready to rock and roll. So yeah, welcome to this evening's workshop about marathon training and how to run your best marathon this autumn in 2023. Also, it may be that you're just wanting to find out more information about marathon training in general, but here we go. So the presentation, I don't want to put too much of a time on it because
depends how much you talk.
Yeah, that's how much I chat. Depends on that, and also how many questions that you've got. So we do want it to be quite interactive. So please do use the sort of chat box if you'd like to ask any questions, because we will answer them throughout. I also have some time for questions at the end too. So we've got some questions for you. So you can just pop them in the chat. First question is, do you have a marathon booked in the autumn? If so, which one? And if you just let us know, that would be amazing. Okay, amazing, coming through. We've got York, Chester, Richmond, Valencia. Fabulous. So we've got different marathons upcoming later this year, which is great. So next question, just like to know a little bit about you. How long have you been running for? Is it a matter of months, some years, some decades? Let us know. I've got a vote for Chicago Marathon, which is awesome. So yeah, just let us know in the chat how long you've been running for. If you can remember that is, cast your mind back.
Or is this the start of the running journey?
Estimate. Okay, amazing. So everyone's
Nice little mix.
Yeah.
Everyone's experienced, done a few.
Amazing, good. So definitely that have been running for a few years, and that's very sweet, Charlotte. 2 years that since you've called yourself a runner.
You put some trainers on, leave the door, you're a runner.
Yeah, but I do know what she means as well. Like when sometimes when you've got a plan, you've got a race to train for, that's when you start to feel like you're a runner. And then last question, how do you hear about this workshop? Did you see it online? Did you see it through Instagram? I don't know. Let us know how you saw this workshop. Welcome, Hannah. You haven't missed too much so far, but just getting started. So you haven't missed much at the moment. We've just been asking a few questions about everyone's training journey. So a few things for Instagram, Facebook. Yes, I still use it. Brilliant, good stuff. Okay, so lovely. We've got people that everyone's sort of been training for a few years. They've got their marathon booked and are kind of maybe seen or heard about us before online, which is great. So just quickly to do some introductions in case you haven't already met or heard about us. So this is myself and James. So my name's Katie. My background with my training journey, I started off playing netball, really. That was my background, and I did a sports science degree at Brunel University. Came home from uni and actually realised that netball wasn't something I wanted to continue doing. The games were quite late at night, and yeah, just kind of decided to start something else, which was where my running journey began. Started in 2012, got the bug really quickly, tried to enter the London Marathon ballot and was really disappointed that I didn't get in on my first attempt. Now I know a lot more about the London Marathon ballot. I kind of realised it's a lot more difficult to get into. So I actually then decided just to get a charity place and did my first one in 2014. Again, got the serious bug for it. And that's when I decided actually running had transformed my life. It had changed quite a lot of things about my lifestyle and just in general. So I decided to train as a personal trainer and coach. Have then gone on to kind of get my own marathon PBs, 5K PBs. I've run London, New York Marathon, Milton Keynes Marathon. And yeah, just absolutely now love helping other people go through the process that I did. Not saying you have to become a personal trainer and coach at the end of it, but obviously I made a lot of mistakes throughout my time, and I also have had some amazing experiences through running. So just want to pass on that knowledge and passion to other people. I always say trust the process. It's a big thing, well, within the Running Hub in general. And I've got a weak spot for anything that's chocolate, peanut butter or Prosecco related. That doesn't really enhance my training, but all about balance around
It's a good
here.
reward.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Moving on to Coach James.
So yeah, that's me, obviously. I started running as a junior, so not via netball in university. In a past life, I was a full-time chef for the Running Hub, and coaching allowed me to get out of the kitchen, basically. I've been part of the Running Hub coaching team since the pandemic, but behind the scenes, part of Clean Coach Katie for forever, really. Seems like a long time. I've got a marathon PB of 2:59 or 2:56 before it was robbed off me by the adjudicators called in Manchester Shore a few years back, and a 5K PB of 17:12. I've ran London, New York and Berlin Marathon as regards to majors and a few others. I really enjoy tempo runs, which you tend to find quite a few people don't. The next one, lover of trainers, beers and sausage roll, doesn't really fit at the moment because there's not been many sausage rolls in Thailand or Cyprus this year. So probably need to relook at that. Maybe love of pita bread and hummus or something like that.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing as a coach is just really helping people understand and achieve their potential. A lot of the time that's just by sort of mixing up their training or getting a little bit more belief they're doing. And as part of that background with Clean Coach Katie, I've been coaching Katie since the day we met, so that's why I did it all greater now.
So yeah, welcome everyone that maybe has just joined us in the last few minutes. Don't worry, you haven't missed out on too much. We're just getting started, so get yourself comfy and let's have a good couple of, well, I'm not going to say hours because just have a good time. So as well as the Running Hub team, which is obviously myself and James, we have Sam, who's also on this call. He's another one of our running coaches, and very new to the team as well, we have Georgie, who is our yoga teacher. She takes our Monday night classes online on Zoom, and it's a great way for all of our runners to connect and also catch up on our weekends running, also have a good stretch out. And Georgie's fantastic. A lot of people have thought at first, oh, yoga, I don't think it would be for me, but the classes are short and sweet enough that they're good, help to improve your flexibility and then set you up for your week of training. So yeah, Georgie has been a very welcome member of the team, as well as Sam. So the Running Hub community, James mentioned them before. We were actually known as, well, that was my brand beforehand, which was Clean Coach Katie, when
she was clean.
I did have a few people I used to have that on my t-shirt, and people would all sometimes ask, who's the dirty coach?
That's
just
not well going, but
yeah, no, well, I had that from a few men, didn't really go down too well with me. Yeah, so that was what we were before, and that was kind of more when I was focusing on a lot of PT stuff, and that was around the era of like the clean eating phase. For us now, it's more about balance and fueling performance and training, especially now that we're a lot more focused around running. So obviously 2020 happened, let's not dwell on it too much, and that's when the Running Hub community was born, because we wanted to keep in contact with all of our clients, all of our members, but the contact was obviously not there. So we wrapped the community around all the services that we offered. And that's when the community was really born as the Running Hub. We now have members all over the country, because before we were just working with kind of people around Milton Keynes, that's where we're from. But now the community allows us to work with people across the country, but also all over the world, which is really, really cool. And at the moment, we've got quite a few members all the way up in Scotland, and that's just kind of by chance. And
slowly taking over, aren't you, Fiona?
Yeah, so the Scottish contingent are doing us well up north. As well as part of the community, there's the opportunity to be part of the Running Hub Running Club, and that's just another benefit of being part of the community. We have a London Marathon spot, a club place. We had our first one last year, and also just means that you get to represent our lovely kit at races and be England Athletics affiliated, which is really good. As well, with the community, our focus is on sort of like the family aspect of it, but also enjoyment, strength training and performance goals. Because again, we like to take this holistic approach. It's not just about running. For us, it's about enjoying training, connecting with other people, building that network, but also pushing your boundaries, challenging yourself and working towards those performance goals that you've got too. So, do you want to take us through this?
Yeah. So what is the Running Hub community? We're helping you become stronger, fitter and faster runners, which will be training consistently to achieve your results, whether they be performance goals or just gaining confidence in your day-to-day running. Helping you understand the right training structure, why you're doing things, and help develop your knowledge. Knowing and understanding why you're doing things rather than just doing them really helps you sort of invest in yourself and your training. So like, questions are always welcomed as to why you're doing stuff. Don't want anyone doing stuff blind and sort of, I mean, some people would like to just be told and off they go, but knowledge is power and all that. Empower you with confidence to achieve your big training and performance goals. We speak about this on the podcast this week about daring to dream and having the confidence to dream as well. And especially for you guys that have embarked on your first marathon journey or the next marathon journey, it's really important to dream and think about that end result. We want to give you the tools to remain injury-free because, we all want that. Improve and ultimately chase those PBs and marathon start lines.
So training for a marathon, because that's what we're all here for. So for us, the aim of a training plan is to help you prepare for the event, also enjoy the process. Yes, we want you to be challenged, but also because the training is such a big part of it, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. And also then to put you on that start line confident enough that you're ready to tackle the distance. Okay, you're going to be nervous. If you're on that start line being too confident, then we've probably not done our job well enough. But you still need to be there being like, I'm ready to go. I'm looking forward to this, ready to take it on. The hardest part actually is the training. Race day, yes, it's going to be, especially your probably first marathon, it's going to be one of the hardest things you've ever done. But the harder part is actually the training. On race day is where you can put all of your training to good use and go and enjoy it and sort of see the fruit of your labor come to life during the race. Training for a marathon also as well isn't just a one-size-fits-all approach. It should work around what your target is, what you want to achieve from the race, your lifestyle. What we have to consider a lot is with people is what their job is, whether you're on your feet a lot, whether you're sat down, how busy you are, if you've got children, things like that. Also your background. I mean, a lot of you here tonight have been training for a couple of years already, which is fantastic. So you've got that base, that knowledge, your age, your time to train, all of these factors need to be considered. But that's also where the work within the Marathon Academy and what we've done is we've kind of understood that and built that around the program. When you train for a marathon, ideally we want to be training anywhere between 3 and 5 times a week. Obviously, again, it just needs to fit to what you're doing. If you're used to training 3 times a week, we're not then going to ask you to run 5 times a week. I think the probably sweet spot for most people training for maybe their first couple of marathons is probably about 4 runs a week, just to make sure you're going to build the right aerobic endurance, build the strength in your body, and really sort of try to achieve what you need to on the day. But as well as training, and we'll go on to this, is the most important thing is doing all of the extra stuff, which we like to call the good stuff, which is stretching, your strength work, your core and cross training, which James...
That's your ticket to play. That's your allows you to run.
Exactly. And that's something James likes to say a lot, is that doing all of this stuff gives you the right to run. You shouldn't be lacking in this stuff. If anything, this stuff comes before the running.
And don't worry if you're sat there thinking, I don't do that, because every single runner we speak to will always say, I don't do enough, or I should do more. And
even us as coaches, sometimes we say that too. Okay, so some top tips for maybe your first couple of marathons.
Yeah, so first of all, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be invested, and ultimately your goal will come with enjoyment. Fortunately, trust the process isn't going to be coined into a drinking game today, but trust the process. Commit, but what you can commit to. We quite often have people, especially at the start of the journey, will say, yeah, I can train 7 days a week, 3 hours a day, 24 hours a day at the weekend. It's not real. We're all human beings, and us professional athletes, we all have life and commitments outside that. So commit to what you can commit to. So consistency over perfection. There's no point in having a good week followed by a bad week. If you can just keep showing up, keep ticking the boxes, keep doing each individual day for what it's needed to, that's going to win throughout this block. During the block, your training will be progressive. It's called progressive overload. So the start will feel, or potentially could feel, pretty easy. Don't be fooled into that. It's all going to work, and it all has stages. Once again, trust the process. Focus on distance and not time goals. Right now, the goal is to be ready for 26.2 miles. Time goals become secondary, but we'll talk about that later down the line. You will never get back your first marathon. So for anybody who's doing their first marathon, go back to the top. Enjoy this journey. Naturally, everybody here throughout the block will compare themselves, compare to what other people are doing, what other training, what distance they're doing. Don't do that. Everybody's on their own journey. Everyone has their own needs. Have fun. Be prepared. This is going to be fun, but there's going to be some good, bad, and ugly days. Marathon training has a catalogue of stories and chapters, so just be prepared. There's never a bad run, though. We can always learn from something. We can always log it, and we can always move on. Make sure you do the good stuff. Get your ticket to play. Do your strength training and stretch.
We probably mentioned that quite a lot during this process. So yeah, first client testimonial on this is Fiona here, and we have Vanessa as well. Vanessa was one of our recent Marathon Academy graduates. She did Edinburgh Marathon, and she said, what a day. I was super happy with my time. She achieved 3 hours 46, which was a 42-minute PB and faster than her London Marathon time 9 years ago. And that's an amazing achievement, you know, almost a decade ago. You know, sometimes if I think about myself in 10 years' time, she's 42 minutes faster. So that's amazing. And she was really happy. And it was all down to the Running Hub community, both Martin and James's support, and also obviously her husband helping her. Vanessa's also a big listener to our podcast, so takes everything on board and just kind of used all of that knowledge. She was always at all of the what do you call them, the monthly calls to, you know, get the support that she needed from the team and everyone else.
I think what's really important to know about Vanessa as well is she's a farmer, and a few weeks, well, a couple of months back now, she was going through lambing season, and she basically said to me, I think this marathon is written off. I'm not going to be able to train much for the next 2 to 4 weeks. I said, well, don't worry, let's do what we can do. Let's work it. And we kept in communication. She never chased the plan. She trusted the process. And then, yeah, look where she was.
Yeah. Now she's got a London Good Fraser, and only the other day did she realise now she has the right to enter an application for Boston Marathon. So yeah, super cool. So we're going to go through different types of training runs. So you may have heard of different things. So some of the key runs that will make up your marathon plan will be your long run. Then we've got some speed sessions, things like intervals. And then we've got other types of speed sessions where we include tempo, threshold, fartlek runs, and then also easy and recovery runs. We're not going to go through every different type of training run this evening, but we'll go through a couple. At the start of the sort of training journey, so you have a bit more of an idea around these. So the long run is, so a lot of people class it as the most important training run. It is one of the most important, but I wouldn't always say that you need to just focus on this. You need to focus on a variety of runs, training your different energy systems to really get the results that you need.
It's probably not the most important. They will build a puzzle, but without the long runs, you aren't going to build a marathon.
Yeah. So you should also be running these slower than your predicted race pace. One of the main mistakes I made when I did my first training block for a marathon, I ran everything at the same pace, and that's when I started to get injuries, because I basically was just running them too fast. With the long run, you never really want to be going over 3 is kind of the magic number, but really over 4 hours. And it's just for recovery purposes. Actually, it's the return is like a diminishing return.
Basically, once you go over 3 hours, the toll on your body is going to be greater than the actual benefits. So it's something that we talk about with clients on a one-to-one level, and it's a lot of it will be down to confidence and mind state going into it and what distance they've done. But essentially, if you've done 3 hours and regularly, you're going to be good to go for a marathon.
Yeah.
Trust the process.
I trust the process. So these long runs are going to get progressive every week, and we've put a little star here, but every so often you're going to have a bit of a drop week, whether that's in your long run intensity or the long run distance, but it's not literally just going to be building
more every week.
So your peak training run is normally around 3 to 4 weeks before your race, and it can be varying. A lot in the Marathon Academy work to time, just to make sure that you're focusing on the right amount of time on feet rather than focusing on distance. And it's been a big transition for some people working to time rather than distance, but has also yielded fantastic results.
We're definitely seeing success from that and a change in mindset.
So intervals. People either love these or hate these. I think they're Marmite.
I think people go into them hating them, hate them during, and love them afterwards.
Yeah, or just haven't got them right and think that intervals need to be a max out sprint, but they're really not. And the idea behind intervals is, what I like to kind of introduce people with intervals is that it's just running faster than your easy pace. So that then helps your easy pace or your marathon pace become easy. You're building your VO2 max, you're building that top end speed, which again is going to make everything feel easier the further down the line you go.
The faster your top end speed becomes, the smaller percentage marathon pace becomes.
Yeah.
Therefore easier.
So most people we get to do intervals, depending on experience, normally around once a week. And it can include different things like tempo, hill work, all that kind of stuff. But again, it's just focusing, and normally comes with a faster burst of effort followed by a walk or a jog recovery. So here we've got some different sessions. Any form of speed work, it's really important to make sure you really do a sufficient warm up and cool down. If you are running out of time, we would always rather people focus on their warm up and cool down and cut the speed section shorter, because again, you need to make sure that your body's prepped and ready to go. So things like 12 by 400 meters. If you can't work in distance, or you haven't got, I mean, you don't need to be a track to do these, but some people then find it easier to work to time. So we've got things like 6 by 3 minutes, then you can mix it up with different times. But again, it's all good to really kind of vary the plan, and it keeps it fresh and interesting. And like we said, you kind of hate it at the time, but love the endorphins that you get afterwards.
Yeah, you can get the feel good factor from them.
So cross training, James, want to tell us a bit more about cross training?
So cross training essentially can replace your aerobic training or your easy run, certainly at the start of the block, where you might target to run 4 or 5 times by the peak training, but right now you're running 2 or 3 times a week, where this is where we would add cross training in. So essentially it's the easy part of the training whilst taking the load off the body. This can be anything from literally the cross trainer, biking, walking, swimming, anything that's going to give you an aerobic workout that's not running.
Okay, and with that, a bit of a client example. So one client of ours was doing a spring marathon at the start of 2022. They were doing a lot more running than they were doing sort of like cross training, like biking, swimming. And in the end of their training block, actually picked up a bit of a niggle and ran 3:37. We then move on to the end of the year. Okay, yes, they had that first training block to work upon, but we actually reduced the amount of runs. We upped the cross training. They had a really good block, and it was shorter just from the time that we had just due to summer. And they ended up running 10 minutes quicker, and then a few weeks later doing a 1:33.5. And that is a lot down to building upon that cross training, that strength work, rather than just all focusing it on the running. And again, another key emphasis on why all of that other stuff is really important. So training plan, you might be like, right, everyone's here has got their marathon booked, and you're like, right, okay, where do I even start with a training plan? So the average training time is around 16 weeks. However, that's not a magic or fixed number. Some plans, or some people may be doing 12 to 14 weeks, but some people may actually start a 20-week plus plan, 20 weeks plus, depending on where you're starting in your training. Also, as well, it might be that you're doing a bit of a base phase. So basically, just don't be put off by your training plan needs to be a set amount of time, anywhere between the region of 12 to 20 weeks. Again, so you're not losing like motivation is how long it needs to be. James and I are kind of working to 20 weeks towards our marathons, but that's just because of where we are in our training. And we wanted to build a really good foundation before we started really increasing the intensity later on down the line. Also, as well, doing a longer plan can factor in any summer holidays, any illness, and any rest that might be needed for niggles. Already, I started working with someone that's got a marathon for October on a one-to-one basis. They picked up a bit of a throat infection, and they've had to have like a week off. They spent a week off, no running at all, and they've had to build back in. But I had to reassure them, saying it's fine. We've started early. It's not like you're trying to chase anything just yet. You've got plenty of time ahead of you. So yeah, training cycles. James, do you want to talk us a little bit through?
Okay, yeah. So as Katie mentioned, throughout the cycle, you'll work in different phases, depending on your block. These won't be set to 4, 12 weeks or whatever they'll be. But essentially, you're going to start off by working your base. This is going to be strengthening your aerobic and muscular endurance, which without that, you're not going to go anywhere. This is probably the most important part of the stage. You could skip either of the next two. You could not miss the base phase. This is going to help you become resilient to injury. Unfortunately, I can't say injury proof. And it's also going to give you the strength, which you're going to rely on to build upon the next things. During the next stage, it's called the intensity phase. So this is where we're going to be working your aerobic capacity. You might also hear us talking about marathon efficiency. This is where this would work. And then our VO2 max, which is our top end speed work. As we said, that's where, again, we're going to work on strength, form, and running efficiency. Efficiency is now the new word rather than trust the process. Okay. And then competition phase. This is going to come down to the last few weeks where we're going to do any race specific workouts. So this is where you might see marathon pace sections in your long run. You'll probably see your tempo runs hitting sort of like an hour at marathon pace and just becoming really at home and really specific at that point. And then lastly, taper. This is the recovery from the training phase, but also dotting the I's and crossing the T's and just sort of finishing that race or competition phase.
And my favourite part of the training. What would you say your favourite part is, James?
The intensity phase. But there you go.
Two different. Yeah. The base phase can sometimes feel a bit
base phase
monotonous,
can feel like you're not getting anywhere quick, but it's so important. And one of the things we'll talk about throughout the next few weeks and months, if you come on board, is how we will look after the bigger picture for you. But actually, if you just look after every day and look after every single session for what it needs to be, i.e. easy, rest, that's really going to help build.
And the people that we see get the base phase right are the ones that have a lot more success in the intensity and sort of the race peak phase, rather than just trying to jump in the intensity straight away.
Yeah.
So you might be wondering kind of like what a training plan might look like. So this is based on around 4 runs per week. So as you can see, in grey is the running days, and they are spread out, especially with intensity. So we've got Tuesday doing speed work, Thursday you might be doing some tempo work, that might be sort of like marathon paced work or more sort of threshold work. You've got your long run on your Sunday, and then we've got an easy run or maybe a park run on Saturday. We've got quite a few people within our community that love sort of going to park run and catching up with friends and having a coffee afterwards. Around that, you're going to build in some rest days, then some strength and core work, cross training, stretching. And it might be with the stretching, we have a lot of people now that try to get in sort of 10 minutes of stretching every single day. But main thing to focus on is that we're giving ourselves rest days in between those runs and also not popping anything back to back in terms of the intensity. Now, 5 runs a week, this might be a very similar sort of structure, but we may then on Mondays or Wednesdays be building an easy run in, and that's just kind of to be building that extra volume, that extra aerobic endurance, and just building that strength, especially in between the intensity, building upon that after doing sort of some harder workouts and working on the efficiency. I want to say it again, and getting ourselves ready for the next session again. Just note with the strengths and core work, you know, if you can include them on run days, amazing. So you can give yourself full rest days, especially here, like Friday. We do like a universal rest day on Friday within the running hub. But again, it's working the schedule. Some people we have doing long runs on Saturdays, on Fridays, whatever works for you. But this is kind of just an example. So some training tips for your plan. Make sure you learn from any mistakes and also share and celebrate the good runs, especially with the Running Hub community. Within our group chat, if someone's had an amazing run, they'll share it into the group chat and just tell everyone and just kind of embrace that high. Also within marathon training, we like for people to build races into the plan, just to simulate a racing environment, to make sure that you're used to running with lots of other people. Also race day logistics, practicing your kit, your nutrition, just so that it kind of gets you ready rather than you just turning up on race day and being like, this is all new to me and this is really, really daunting. Also make sure that you practice in the kit that you plan to wear on race day, especially if the weather is different. You know, you're training for an event which is going to be in 4 or 5 months' time. So make sure when it gets closer to the time, you're practicing what you're going to wear. We find it a lot in the spring training blocks where people are running through January and February when the weather is Baltic. You're wearing lots of layers, but then it comes April and you might have a quite nice mild day and people are a bit shocked by it. So make sure you know what you're wearing. Always make sure that you listen to your body and look after it. Again, we're looking after our body. We're doing the injury prevention work. We're doing the recovery stuff, making sure that we're, after all of the hard sessions, that we're looking after ourselves and getting ready for the next run, which is coming up in the plan. Also, having smaller goals in your training plan to help you keep focused. It's going to keep your motivation higher. And one of the main things that I learned about marathon training is to make sure that you vary your pace. So that's by doing the different types of run, training those different energy systems, and keeping the easy runs easy. Your body will thank you for it. And also your body will in the longer run when you're able to train consistently because you're staying fit and healthy. So kit, James, you love trainers. Do you want to talk to us a little bit more about through marathon training kit?
Yeah, trainers are a really important piece of kit. We could talk forever about this, but we'll do a different call. You know, fundamentally, make sure you've got something that's comfortable and you feel good and you like to wear them. That's the most important thing there. Don't get conned into buying the most expensive. Just do all your running in. That's not what you need to do. Okay, just find yourself a good, sturdy pair to start with. As I say, make sure they're appropriate. Training was comfortable for you. It's like I've read this beforehand. Hydration and nutrition belts. As you go through the stages of marathon training, you'll learn about fueling and how important that becomes. So make sure you've got something that can carry that. You don't want to be running around with hands full of gels and bottles and all that sort of stuff. So find what's right for you, whether that's shorts with pockets, whether that's a belt, whether that's a, what are these things called? A hydration vest. Which we need. Got shorts with pockets and game changers, Kate thinks.
They're worth me anyway.
One of the great things about community, other than support, is just a source of knowledge. People will have different items that Katie and I don't have knowledge about, and they would have tried everything between them. So, you know, speak to people, speak to your community members, speak to your fellow runners and see what they're doing. Body Glide and Vaseline will be your best friend. I think it's enough said there. No bleeding or awkward chafing in places we don't want to talk about.
And your feet, blister, protect your feet from blisters.
Yeah, sorry guys, your feet are in trouble for the next few weeks now if you've not done a marathon before. That's just is what it is. Yeah, don't underestimate that. Like, just slap it.
Okay, strength and core training. We've got James here in the gym, lifting some weights. So as runners, we love to run, But actually, if we include other forms of training, it's going to help us become a stronger, fitter, faster, but more injury resilient runner at the same time as well. And the idea behind it is to, one, prevent injury, also to improve our running economy and efficiency, liking that word. We've got stronger joints and muscles and to sustain the longer runs. Like we talk about with the base phase, again, building a strong foundation is going to give your body the right to run and also withstand the intensity and volume which you're going to do, because that's increasing throughout your training plan. So if anything, at the start of the plan is when we really want to focus on this more. We don't want to get injured and then be like, oh no, I need to do strength and core training. It's like, no, let's include it at the start of the plan, just again, before all of your miles start to build up. And also it's one element of the good stuff, like we've mentioned a few times before, that we like to talk about. Within the Running Hub platform, we've got some on-demand workouts which you can follow with our one-to-one clients. We program stuff for them to go and do it in the gym. So there's lots of sort of ways for you to include that, and also the accountability of the Running Hub helps you to get that into your routine. Now, a lot of people might be asking like how often you should be doing it. Ideally, once a week is what you want to aim for as a minimum. But if you can do 2 to 3 times a week, then amazing, we'll be over the moon.
Again, this goes back to the start where we said about making things work for you. So if we use the example of myself and Katie, Katie's very good at getting an hour or 45-minute session in amongst her week. For me, several 15-minute sessions works better. So, you know, we're ticking the same box, we're just going a different way about it.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be done in the gym. You can still do effective workouts from home. You can still just do body weight stuff, but also need to focus on the things that are important for your body, because everyone's going to have different weaknesses as well. It might be that someone's got weaker lower legs or glutes or their core, you know, again, so rather than just thinking, I just need to do general strength and core training, think about how you can be effective and about how you can work smarter and not harder in this respect as well, focusing on what's going to bulletproof you for your running.
Bench press and bicep curls are cool, but how's that going to help you across the marathon line?
Yeah, for us, we just really kind of try to focus on lower leg and core workouts more so than anything. As well, you can add some of this work into your harder workout days. You might be going to do in the morning, you might do sort of like your speed session. In the evening, you do strength and core work, which then leaves the rest days and the easy days.
Text them basically.
Yeah. Again,
easy days easy, hard days hard. Just
giving you the right recovery. As I've already said, focusing on the lower limbs and the core. And like James says, doing some shorter sessions. If you are short on time, can you go for a run? And then can you get back and can you do 10, 15 minutes of core work and a couple of minutes stretching afterwards? How can you try to integrate it into your training week?
And I guarantee if you try and put 10, 15 minutes of strength or core work together, you can definitely get a swell and get a good workout. If you just like, not cram it in there. It's not a very good way of wording it, but you know, have an intense 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, so are there any questions so far? I appreciate we're trying to go through all different small elements of training, but again, this is everything that we cover within the Running Hub, and the Marathon Academy itself is just lots of the different aspects that make up the marathon training plan. We do have some time at the end, but yeah, we're going through everything that we cover, but in small sections, and hopefully there's lots of little takeaways you can take away to put into your training moving forward. Okay, nutrition. So won't go too much into detail. I've got a couple of slides on nutrition, but just some top tips for us is that food is fuel at the end of the day. This is really important. So you do have to think about not only your training, but how you're going to fuel around it. If you've got a busy job and you're planning to run in the evening, what can you eat in the day which is going to maximize your running later on when you're heading out the front door? Also, it's about getting the balance right between fueling your training and not under or over fueling. A lot of people like to use running as a weight loss tool, but if anything, when you're marathon training, we really have to think about the performance side of things. And with that also comes in hydration. So again, making sure that you're well hydrated before and after, and even during your runs, support that training. And on that note, can I have a drink, please? Oh, too much talking. We need to make sure that we're balancing our diet as well with both carbohydrates and protein. Carbohydrates is our main fuel source, but protein is just going to help your body recover as well too. So just making sure that we've got a balanced diet to fuel
proteins also act as the carrier for carbohydrates. So if you don't have protein, the carbohydrates won't get moved around the body efficiently. And then as per the moment, fuel tank, just it's easy to resemble it this way. You're not going to jump in the car with an empty tank and try and do 20 miles, the equivalent of whatever driving would be a long run. So don't try and do it yourself.
Find out what works for you. We're all really different. Some people have got sensitive stomachs, so we'll have to try different gels. I could tell you what I have for my run breakfast, and you'll be like, that sounds disgusting. I mean, I love bananas. James really doesn't like bananas at all. So again, what we eat before our run is completely different.
I find pasta bolognese is a good pre-run breakfast for me at the moment. Doesn't mean it has to be for everybody.
No. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, can you, on Saturday nights, James has done us the bolognese and then had kept a little extra portion for him before the long run. You don't have to have it's not like a full-blown portion,
no.
But it's
that's what works for me. That's what I can digest.
Yeah. Don't try anything new on race days, we always say. And then at the start, try to keep things simple. Think of the main food groups, think about vitamins and minerals, get a good balance, and then go deeper with the science if you need to. If you need to track your calories and your macros and all things like that.
Very easy to overcomplicate
it. So we have had a question come in saying, is it bad to be running on an empty stomach? I really struggle with getting a stitch, even if I run in the evening and I've only had breakfast.
Long story short, yes. If you don't fuel properly, if you look at the longer game, fueling not only helps that run, it's also a kickstart to recovery. But, your marathon isn't until October. So another word for training is practice. We also have to train and practice our fueling. It's very easy, and a lot of our athletes do this, say, I can't do that, and there's a wall up. But often it's not you can't do that, it's what you can't do at the moment, or you haven't found the correct option for you. So unfortunately, trial and error is a real thing, but there will be something out there for you. And quite a lot of the time, people that struggle with fuel before a run is actually because they're not hydrating properly and therefore not digesting the fuel. So that's something you'd want to talk to myself or Katie about a bit more one-on-one at a point that's convenient. But I think the main thing here is trying to work out what is causing the problem and how we can get around it, because there will be a way around it.
Yeah, and going back to the fuel tank, if we're going out for a run and our fuel tank is on full, amazing. We're going to go out for the run and then we're going to deplete that fuel tank. We're going to use the fuel. And if we don't top up sufficiently, next time we go out for a run, our fuel tank is going to be lower than what we started with. And then it's going to keep going down. So yeah, it's just really important to make sure that you're fueling your runs. You don't have to eat before every run.
No, yeah, as well. We're talking about overcomplicating things, and unfortunately, the world of social media and stuff like that, you'll see things banded around, like people saying, "Oh, I've gone for a fasted run today." They haven't. They don't understand the meaning of a fasted run. If you're going to go out and do a half an hour run in the morning, you don't need to have breakfast. Of course not, because you're fueled from the day before. You haven't used all your fuel while you're asleep. But we can go into this a lot more and a lot more into depth.
Yeah. Time. So pre-run fuel, do not take this as gospel or anything like that. But this is just some of this kind of parameters around things. So if you're going out for a 30-minute run, some fuel may not be required, or you could have
the residual fuels there.
Yeah. If you're then going up to around 60 minutes, that might be where you want a small snack or a meal. So especially if you're going out in the morning, for me, a banana and a coffee for up to 60 minutes on an easy run is fine. Something like a slice of toast, a small bowl of cereal, some fruit loaf, some, crumpet, smoothie, whatever's going to sort of suit you before you go out. Then when we're getting up to more 75 minutes, 80 minutes, then we want to be thinking a bit more of a bigger substantial snack or meal, kind of high carbohydrate, low fat and fiber to protect your gut. And then anything eating beforehand, and maybe more a bit of a meal. And that's like if you think about this, maybe a long run in the morning where you're going to have some porridge, toast, a bagel, a smoothie, pasta bolognese like James. There's options around it, but also, as well as just thinking about the time of run, you have to think about the intensity of your training run as well. So when you're running faster or at a harder effort, your fuel tank is going to deplete quicker than if you're just doing an easy run. So again, you have to consider that. and the time of day that you are running. Some people find it easier to digest food quite quickly, others don't, so they have to really think about when they're eating before their run.
Just to quickly touch on the bit in the middle there, Kate, you mentioned high carb, low fat and fiber. So the reason that is, obviously, carbs are our energy source. Fiber, if you're not aware, is essentially what's going to help movement, and we certainly don't need that help when we're running, which already encourages movement. And fats actually line the intestine at first port of digestion. If the intestines is lined with fat, you're then preventing or making the body work harder to digest the carbs and get the energy in. So that's the reason we go low fat, low fiber.
So during our run, this predominantly what we're going to talk about now is for the longer runs, which you're going to be doing during your marathon training. And the research out there now says that we're looking for anything between 30 and 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour of fuel that we need whilst we're out training. Optimal is probably about 60. 90 grams is a heck of a lot. And if you're going to be doing that, you're going to have to be doing it versus gels and some form of like hydration drink to get that much in. Is quite
carb drink.
Carb drink, sorry, is quite a lot. So there's lots of things that you can consider for your energy. So things like gels, it might be some sweets. There's things like shot blocks or jelly beans. There's different chews out there now, energy bars. So there's lots of options. So either it can be not processed, but packaged, or it can be natural. But again, it's finding what works for you.
We've done a lot of work with Talk in the past. We've done a podcast, and we've also got some recordings in the Running Hub with way more information than what we can give you. And the great thing Talk do as well is they measure their stuff in what they call Talk units, which is a 30-gram carb serving.
Mm-hmm. So
gels in the picture there.
Yeah, so not only is it about training to find what works, but also training your gut for the volume of fuel, because it's no good just saying, oh yeah, I can take on the lemon drizzle Talk gel, and in your runs you only get used to using 2 during a run, because then on race day you're maybe going to have to take anywhere between 4 and 6, and then if you're not used to using that many, and then you feel sick on the day and then can't take that amount on, it's because you've not trained with the amount, the quantity.
Training is more than just your legs.
Okay. Then we've got some things up here that are additional. So it could be salt tablets if you suffer with cramp. That might be then when you incorporate sort of electrolytes and sports drinks, Tailwind. So there's lots of things out on the market. But again, through the community, we chat about different things and sort of compare what we like to use so that people can get inspiration and ideas. But training is where you practice it, so that on race day, you've got your strategy nailed and you know what you're going to be using. So just as a bit of an insight, these are some different popular brands that people like to use. So with Talk gels, the gel sachets are 45 grams serving, and they have in them 29 grams of carbohydrate. So quite a high sort of ratio of carbohydrates in the pack. High Five, these are more of a watery texture, which is why a lot of people like these ones. So they're a 40 gram serving and you get 23 grams of carbohydrates. So not too bad either. Then we've got Bella Forte, which I think is how you pronounce it, a fairly newer brand to the market from what I understand. A few of our members use these as well. These are a bit more with natural products, smaller, so 33 grams of serving and 22 grams of carbohydrates, but 7 grams less of what Talk is, so you might need to take a few more of these than what you would a Talk gel. And unfortunately, what we've realized over the last few years is science and sport, a 60 gram, 60 gram serving, 22 grams of carbohydrates. So you need to take
a lot on board,
a lot of actual liquid or consistency on board for that 22 grams. So it's just worth thinking about, because it's all good people being like, yeah, I take chews, or yeah, I take this, but actually look at the back of your packets and see how many carbohydrates are.
Yeah, because if you're talking to your friend, you're like, yeah, I take 2 gels an hour, and you're taking Talk and they're taking science and sport, who's actually getting the more fuel in? It's not about who's taking what gels.
Yeah. Okay. So injury prevention. Try not to talk about injury for too long because we don't like talking about this subject. But unfortunately, injuries are kind of part of running. I'm sure everyone sat listening to this will have experienced some form of niggle or injury. And they normally occur just because you do something too quickly or you've got some imbalances and you overload your body too quickly with that. There's also a difference between a niggle and an injury. We're not endorsing training through a niggle, but sometimes about managing the niggle. An injury is something where you can't train on. A niggle is where you adapt training to maybe try and still get the benefits, and it's about working through it. Also as well, just don't self-diagnose yourself. Don't just talk to a friend and because they said they've had some similar pain before, just go with that's what you've got. Make sure you go and see someone, an expert, a professional, to really give you the advice to understand what you've got and what stuff you can do to overcome it.
Please don't Dr. Google.
Yeah.
Please don't.
They'll tell you to chop your leg off, that kind of thing.
It's over. The marathon is over.
So one of the big things what to do, like if you do get an injury, is obviously make sure that you seek out that professional advice. If you're in pain, just don't run. Even if the plan says to do so. A lot of people will be like, no, I've got to do my marathon training plan because I'm training for my marathon and I can't miss my long run. If you do tend to have to miss a few weeks of training, it might be that you have to adapt your plan, you adapt your goal, but never, another thing that we like to say is never chase a plan.
Chances are that one session that you didn't want to miss is going to cost you 5, 6, 7 sessions. So be careful.
Yeah. So with that, we recommend regular sports massage, especially when you're in the thick of your marathon training. You don't have to go and see a physio or a sports masseuse if you're injured. We like to call it a bit of like an MOT. It's just going to iron out any creases, it's going to get rid of any knots, it's going to get the blood flowing around the body again, it's going to make sure that your muscles are in good working order. You kind of want to go once a month, we say, at a minimum, because if you don't, then it's likely you're going to have to go and see them every single week if you've got a bit more of a serious injury. Stretching, we've spoken about a lot already. We do our Monday sessions, but again, it's just incorporating it into your week. And how can you do it in smaller sections, maybe 10 minutes after your run, just including it in your week. As well, foam rolling, so you foam roller first and then you stretch. But again, this is something that we cover a lot more in depth in the Running Hub community. But again, just a nice gentle reminder, especially as you're training ups, it's something you want to include within your marathon plan. So some general injury prevention, James?
Yeah, include rest in your training plan. We mentioned that a few times now. Respect rest day and get on board with it. Warm up appropriately, include dynamic stretches. Throughout the plan, we'll go on about how to warm up, how to do drills and get yourself both physically and mentally prepared for your session. Stretching and foam rolling a couple of times a week, partner them up together, really become friends with your foam roller. Little tip there, just store it by the sofa. It'll stare at you while you're sitting there watching TV. You'll feel compelled to use it. As Katie just mentioned, sports massage regularly every 3 to 5 weeks. We understand it's a cost, but it's sort of an investment in yourself and your marathon journey. And correct footwear. Wearing old shoes or I don't know, a pair of Converse or something to do a couple of hours running, it's not going to do you any favors. Again, we've talked about this for a long time. And then make sure you're punching your ticket to play, doing your strength and core work.
So mindset is a big part of it. We're going to quickly go through some mindset stuff and race day strategy. So what we find is that you can train, you can do all your training plans, you can do all your long runs, you can be in your peak physical shape, but if you're not mentally there either, it's not going to match or marry up. And it's going to really affect your race day. It can let your performance down if you're not believing in yourself. But again, this is where the community comes in and we are all on board. We're all behind you and we're cheering you on the whole way. Also, we train so intently for our races and for our marathons. How can we also look at the mental side of things as well, a little bit more to match that up? So again, that's where we're this holistic approach. We're not here to just do the training. We're here to do all of the things around it as well. So yeah, mindset is really important because not only is it about race day, it's about taking that positive mindset into your training session as well. James will tell you the amount of times that I rock up to a session where I'm not confident, and that can spill into your training as well. But, you know, with the right mindset, applying the right mindset, normally once I get started into a training session, I'm all good and my mindset's in a good place. But yeah, it's just, it can spill into lots of other things, not only race day, but training too. So I did some mindset work previously. So in 2019, I had a great start to the year. I did London Marathon, I got a PB. And then I basically was doing too much too soon. And I started training for my first autumn marathon. It was very different to what I'd been used to in spring marathons, because I'd always just done London. And I felt like my training didn't go to plan. It wasn't that it didn't go to plan, it was just different to what I was used to. I was doing training runs during the week because weekends were busy with different plans. It was the summer. And also as well, just wasn't used to training in a different style. So I started working with a mindset coach. It was a friend from university. He'd done sports psychology. And basically the really important thing, and I'm not saying you have to work with a mindset coach in your next marathon training block, but we just changed my outlook. And again, just defining what success looked like for that marathon just enabled me to have a really good experience, removed any pressures that I felt like I was getting, which weren't actually there at all. It was just myself. And so again, by getting yourself in the right mindset, I thought my training was pants, if I'm being honest, but actually I was like, I think it was my second quickest time and had a really good race day. So yeah, mindset is really important. And here within the Running Hub, we're here to support you with your mindset. Again, we have race day strategy calls. It's not just about the training, it's about putting yourself in the best place possible. So going on to race day strategy. So we like to have A, B, and C goals. So it might be that your A goal is your top goal. C is what you'd be kind of like, yeah, if everything goes well and have a fairly decent day, C. And that B is probably like, what's the most realistic? But that A goal is like, if everything aligns, everything goes well, the weather's great, my nutrition's on point, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling strong. That's when everything aligns up. Also, we like to define what success is. So again, rather than putting pressure on yourself, what do you want to achieve from your race?
Quite often when we ask people to define success, they don't actually mention a time, which is quite important.
It's more about how you want to feel during the run, at the end, when you cross that line.
We like to break it into 3 R's: relax, rhythm, and then race.
It's a new strategy that James has adopted recently. As well with your race day, if those people that have already got this stuff booked in, start thinking of logistics, know where you have to be at what time. Do you need accommodation the night before? And always a top tip to remember is that the marathon is not halfway at 13.1 miles. Halfway is essentially mile 20. So this is a bit more about strategy during the race. So James, negative splits, that's your bag, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay,
so break the race down. So however you may want to look at it, do not take it on as 26 individual miles or 42 individual kilometers. You will mess your head up. So work out how you want to, whether that be into 5-mile blocks in a 10K, 2 10 miles in a 10K, 10 miles, 20 miles, 10K, it's up to you. Not 10 miles, 20 miles, 10K, 20 miles, 10K, work it out. We would be advising most people to look for a negative or an even split run. Essentially, as Katie said, halfway is 20. We're setting ourselves up to race the last 10K. We're not racing from the gun. Keep the first part reserved, or as I said, relaxed. Don't go faster because you feel good. Hopefully you do feel good. The taper's where training's good, you're strong, you're fit, you're ready to go. Do not get caught up in the atmosphere. Stay true to yourself, stay honest to your race plan. Stick to your fueling strategy. It's very easy to think, I don't need fuel yet. You're not fueling for now, you're fueling for later.
Some of the things is having some notes in a gel. So this is something I did for New York, and I had when I was going to take them. throughout the race. So nice little reminders. It might be that you've got written notes on your arm. You might have a playlist with your favorite songs that are going to remind you of people, and pace pockets. So again, it's just making sure these little tips and tricks that can help support you around the course.
Smile.
And Natasha's put, love the idea of having notes on gels. Amazing. So
just remember, you take the right gels at the right time. You don't want to be taking, go get it finished strong at 10K.
Amazing. So has anyone got any questions? Appreciate that this is quite a lot to go through, but we kind of really wanted to showcase that marathon training isn't just, because we could have sat here and for an hour spoke about the different types of training runs and how to structure your marathon training plan, but essentially we wanted to show you that marathon training is so much more than that, and there's lots of things to consider, and all of these little things are going to help build your race strategy and your training blocks. Does anyone have any questions at this stage? I'll give a couple of minutes to ask any questions if you do have any. If you don't, obviously don't worry, we have covered a lot, so it might be that we've covered quite a few things, or you can always have a chat with us afterwards as well. So this leads on next to what we've been speaking about, is the Marathon Academy. So we're not quite finished yet. Give us 5-10 minutes more of your time. So
that's about half an hour in Katie language.
Are you here in a position where you actually feel like after today you might need some more support with structure in your training plan? You know, do you want to feel strong during your block, but also on race day? Maybe you might be at a stage that you're lacking in a bit of belief and confidence ahead of the marathon. Do you want to enjoy your training, be accountable, and be on that start line knowing you've given it your best shot, you've committed to this training block? Do you want to reach that start line injury-free? And do you want to be surrounded by supportive people who get running? If you answered yes to one or more of these, then we've got the solution for you, which is the Marathon Academy. So the Marathon Academy is launching tonight. Right now, you're the first ones to kind of know and hear about it. It's starting on Monday, the 19th of June. It's our signature group training program for autumn marathons later on this year. And we have done this program, how many times now?
This is our 4th iteration.
This is our 4th round. So we've had huge results from every single round, and it's been really successful. And every time we just keep improving it and making it better.
Yeah, we've got some new stuff coming into it this time as well, which will make it a little bit easier and a little bit more exciting.
So what's included in the Marathon Academy? So you get a weekly training plan, which has obviously been tried and tested. And the main thing we like to do is also get to know the group before we start, so that the plan is tailored to the group. We look at your history of training, what race you're training for, to make sure that it matches up to what you're doing. You also get access straight away to the Running Hub membership. So you get access to our Monday night classes with the yoga. You get all the on-demand workouts, all the strength and core workouts available to do at any time throughout your training. There's an academy group chat, so you're going to be able to chat to everyone else that's training for their marathons, share the highs, share the lows, share the advice, and just generally motivate one another, but also as well get the access to the wider community too. Because not only will there be people training for marathons in the academy, but also just generally one-to-one coach clients. So there'll be lots of other people that are training for marathons. We do a monthly Zoom with James and I. It's an opportunity to kind of see where you're at. You get to talk through your training. You can ask any questions, but we also go through all of the topics that we spoke about tonight in more depth and at the right time to support the training journey at the right time where you're at in the stage of training. Obviously, you've got the accountability of the program. It means that, you know, on the days that are going to feel tougher, we're going to help you with the training plan to get you out the front door.
I'm off to work now, babe. Love you.
There with us.
Obviously, as well, you've got the group to train with together. So everyone's going through the same thing at the same time. You can all help motivate one another. You've got access to James and I. I'm not going to say 24/7.
But almost.
But almost. And as well, one of the good things is that, say, for example, something crops up in your week, the training plan is set and you're like, I can't do this run today because I've had to stay late for a meeting or I'm not feeling very well.
We'll give you the advice.
We can then help support you with how to sort of switch up the training to get the most from your week. And as well, the experience from not only James and I, but the whole community to help support you. And that was something that was really kind of felt a lot at the start of this year in the spring marathon block. So we had so many people training for marathons, is that everyone was supporting one another. And for people that were doing their first time, other people that had done, were able just to give that support and advice. And it was just really lovely to watch that flourish. So cost of the Marathon Academy. So for the whole program, it's £250. So from now until, because if you sign up today, you get full access to the Running Hub community straight away, now until the end of October, or whenever the last marathon is for the group. So between June and October, £250. But if you sign up before the end of this week, we're going to give you an early bird access offer of £200, and that will take you through all the way to the end of October. If you sign up by the end of the week, we'll give you a free race day strategy call. So before
usually race week.
So in race week, we can chat through your race day strategy, just nail down all of the final stuff. And if you book tonight, you're also going to get a free coaching call ahead of the program. So we'll chat through any sort of blockers that you may have, any hurdles, any advice, anything that we can basically just help you get you off on the right foot to set yourself up well for the program. So a few testimonials just from previous people that have done it with us, because again, it's not just, we can't just sit here and say, oh yeah, the Marathon Academy is great. We've got the testimonials to back it up that it's been successful. So one of this previous members had a really great experience in their time in the academy. The plans and the support were all brilliant, and having a small group to talk to about the runs and plan each week kept me on track. So that's a really important thing. We cap the Marathon Academy. We don't have lots and lots of people joining. We want to make sure that the group is not too small that you're not going to get the benefit of it, but small enough so that you really kind of get to know one another, can really support each other, and that you all get the right support from us as coaches too. So this person never felt like they could or would skip a run, as they're accountable every step of the way, but in a really positive way, and everyone just worked together as a team. So I haven't told you about how to sign up. So you can sign up. I'll leave the link in the chat. So it's, if you head to our website, if you want some more information, here is the link to sign up. But also, if you've got a marathon later on this year and you might be like, the Marathon Academy sounds great, but actually I might want some more one-to-one. We do online coaching as well. So for that, if you want a bit more of a personalized approach with your training, you get your own profile on our training platform. You get your plan on a monthly basis. Again, all of the access to all of the Running Hub benefits. You get a monthly call with your coach. So it's just working on that more close level to help you achieve what your training goals. As well, we have our Running Hub membership, which you get for all of the different offerings that we have, and what we've spoken about. There's lots of stuff going on within the Running Hub as well. So a few more testimonials. It pushed me further than I thought was in my capabilities. At times I found it hard to keep up with everyone else who was more experienced, but ultimately I did need to be pushed. I was not experienced in following training plans with any of the terminology, and certainly never done this much running before. The advice and guidance from the coaches and fellow Marathon Academy group was so helpful. It was good having the others to hold me accountable. I very much needed that, but also others to encourage, congratulate, and ride through the tougher times. With the sense of community was really valuable. Highly recommend. So again, if you're sat here thinking, oh, I'm quite inexperienced, or this is my first marathon, the Marathon Academy works for both those that have done marathons before, but also first timers. Okay, I think this might be, no, not our last one, but I had a fantastic experience in the Marathon Academy. The plans and support were brilliant. I have a small group to talk to about the runs, kept me on track. Some of my highlights are the long runs, never missing one, no matter what the weather was, whatever the weather or where I was. I also enjoyed the sense of achievement after each one and knowing it was ticked off. I didn't pick up any injuries, positive, which is really pleasing. I surprised myself by loving the early summer starts. As for race day, I felt totally prepared and took on all the advice along the way. My goal was to keep going and not hit that moment when I couldn't run anymore. Still feeling strong in the latter miles. I achieved all of this. I'm so proud of my run and was such an accomplishment for me. And last one, my time at Marathon Academy was extremely positive. Coming back from an injury has been difficult, but with the expert training plans and support from the Running Hub coaches, I managed to get a PB in my marathon. The Marathon Academy team were there to support and cheer me on through the good and the bad areas of marathon training. 100% would recommend this program, whether it's your first or 100th marathon. The weekly training plans helped to keep me on track and organise my week accordingly when I needed to move runs around. I also found that consistency is key and finally feel like this happened in this block. So yeah, everything that we've spoken about is kind of backed up by all of these lovely words through our testimonials. So thanks everyone. Please let us know if you've got any further questions. This will be available on replay, so if you do want to go back and look through any of the notes, then obviously you're more than welcome to, but please let us know if you've got any questions, and we wish you all the best with your training leading up to your races, respective races, whether that's York, Chicago, Chester, Abingdon, whatever that may be. So yeah.
Okay, so Joe's got a question here. Advice for determining marathon pace and for training runs. I think, first of all, it's about understanding what you want to achieve and what your goal is and working backwards from there. You're not going to be hitting marathon pace easily right now, but yeah, like, do you have an idea of what you want to achieve or what your goal time is at the moment?
I think the main thing what you like, what about just run it easy effort?
Base, yeah.
So we didn't really cover easy runs, but with easy runs and your long training runs, what you want to focus on is just easy effort rather than a set pace, because especially as the training load starts to get higher, it might be that your pace, even though you're getting fitter, your pace might remain the same because of the training load. So if anything, at the start with those long runs, we just focus on easy effort rather than a pace. And as long as it's feeling comfortable, you can chat. And that's going to help you with those setting that pace. Once you've got a bit more data, then you can maybe determine what your long run pace may be. So hopefully that helps. And Natasha's put, thanks so much, more to think about than I did at my first marathon 4 years ago. Charlotte's put, thank you, I'm going to review my nutrition. Yeah, really important, especially I mean, there's lots of elements of nutrition that we're talking about in terms of in particular what, but it might be during for your training. So yeah, it's worth starting right at the start with your nutrition and getting that nailed and practicing. So later on down the line, you're not panicking, thinking, oh no, I haven't tried any gels yet.
Cool. If nobody's got any questions right now, but they come off this call and think, oh, I meant to ask, then just go onto Instagram and either go into the Running Hub community's DMs or mine or Katie's individually, and we'll be able to get back and answer any questions.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you if you're watching this on replay, and if you've got any questions about the Marathon Academy, please do let us know. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later.